Welcome to the Libertarian Counterpoint. I'm Richard Fields. On the program today, Doug Barbieri and John Cameron. Welcome to the show. We're doing a show that is on the internet at www.accesssacramento.org. We're on YouTube, and we're also live, of course, on Channel 17 in Sacramento and various other cable outlets all around the country. First topic is the United States relinquishing control of the Internet to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Is that a bad thing for Internet freedom? Ted Cruz seems to think it is.
Actually, I think it could actually be a good thing.
How's that?
Well, okay, it depends on who you talk to. I think it was the president of ICANN said, oh, this is going to be bad. Or actually, he said, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be the same, business as usual. Some people say, oh, the UN's going to take over, and then it's going to be run by the United Nations. Wendy McElroy wrote a really good article about this, and she talks about that this actually could be a huge boon for freedom, because what's going to happen is ICANN, apparently, as I understand it, what's being pulled is their immunity from antitrust suit. So basically, there'll be a monopoly after the government pulls its protection, which could mean that they may have to go out of business, or I don't know what's going to happen, or they have to sell off things. So it opens up the door for a lot of decentralization.
Oh, you mean so ICANN could have competition in running internet?
There's already
whatever.
There's already competition. It's just technology's there. It's just not really being used as much. It's called Namecoin, and if you go to namecoin.org, and it's like Bitcoin. Okay, have you guys ever heard of Bitcoin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Except that the currency is used to create and maintain domain names.
So what are the domain names on that alternative universe?
Everything right now has .bit, and it's custom. You have to actually set either your browser up, or if you go to your ISP, or you go to if you're in a company that has an administrator, IT administrator, what you can do is you can get them to set that up, and it basically they run a Namecoin server, and then it's a decentralized blockchain-based technology. So as soon as somebody registers a domain name, they have it, right? But there's no registrar to open with. There's no registrar to go to like ICANN. ICANN has administration, and you have to go and there's companies can contract with them and become distributors of domain names. It doesn't work like that at all. This is completely decentralized.
So just like the dollar is a currency run by the Federal Reserve, or the euro is run by the European Central Bank or whatnot, Bitcoin is not run by any one central authority. It's all on the blockchain, which I don't understand at all, but it seems to work.
It does work, and it works really well. It's Satoshi's.
So it's the same technology. I didn't realize there was a .bit competitor out there.
So how would that work then? You would just would this blockchain know if John A. Cameron.bit already existed and not assigned it to somebody then?
Well, the way it would work is
you pay for
you would
yeah.
Well, you would basically either mine some name coins, right? If you get the right hardware, and there are places you can do it also online, or you can buy some name coin, and then you actually literally download the software, and there's a tab on there that says Manage Domains. You type in your domain that you want, and it's always .bit right now, but maybe that would change after ICANN goes away. I don't know. You type in your domain name, and then you would allocate an amount of name coin, to it, and then what would happen is it will allocate that in the blockchain, and now you have it, and
so
then you can.
If these ones that are using this service now, if I were to put in, because right now I put a search term for johnnycameron.com. So I would have to specifically search for .bit, or if I put in Johnny Cameron, period, would it pull up the .coms and the .bits on the current internet world?
No. It just handles .bit right now.
So I'd have to look for .bit.
You would have to, yeah. But I mean, once
through my Safari, could I find a .bit right now?
No, right now, no. You have to do some special setup. There is a way to do it, but you have to set up it's a little complicated. I don't mean to bore you. You have to set up a proxy server that talks to something that understands the name coin.
The .bit.
Yeah. It literally goes to the name coin.
So it's still in the geek stage at this point.
It's still at the nuts and bolts stage, but If
Sort of
it
like DOS back in the day.
kind of like, yeah, it's like, well, there was DOS and then there was Windows 3.1, and some people had Windows 3.1 and most people use DOS, and it's that kind of thing. Well, it would be more like, which ages us, by the way, very much. But it would be more like what you would do is you would, if it became adopted, if they said, all right, we want to do this, right? And people said, hey, we really want this, right, like Bitcoin, then your ISP would go ahead and set it up and say, we support it. And then you would point your DNS. You wouldn't have to do anything.
Okay, so the bottom line here is that no matter who runs the .coms and the .nets and so forth, whoever does the name assigning and so forth for that, it doesn't really make any difference who does all of that, because there's always a .bit competitor or a whatever competitor out there that can go in and compete if the .coms and so forth are prone to censorship or prone to mismanagement in any other way.
Exactly.
So you got a much more competitive market rearing its head. Does this mean that the internet will always stay 3 steps ahead of the government?
I hope. I mean, this is actually, it surprises me, as decentralized as the internet is, it is monopolized right now through the DNS system. And when they talk about, Obama says, we're going to have the internet kill switch. Well, they're not really going to kill every connection to every house and sever the wires. What they're going to do is they're just going to shut off access to the domain name system, which you can still use the internet. It's just, do you know the IP address to, Yahoo? There's a lot of them. It rotates, and that's literally what the DNS system is doing. It's just a big lookup table. It says if I type in, if you had
so it's an index.
Yeah, richardfields.com resolves to, and maybe you might have a list of IP addresses where your web server is, but you could type in the IP address of your web server and it would take you there. So,
which is a long string of gibberish.
4 little octets, not that bad.
Yeah.
137.37, but it's not.
Okay, well, so
friendly.
this is really quite encouraging news. I mean, that the internet can stay a step or two ahead of regulators and dastardly government agents.
They can.
Question.
Go ahead.
So if Obama decides to shut down DNS because of some emergency, like a Republican or independent, taking office, some smart person somewhere. Does somebody have a copy of all of those IP addresses so they could basically post another directory, so take over the search?
That's actually a very good question. And actually there are, as I understand it, there are alternate root servers. I know that sounds a little bit heady, but that's really what you're talking about when you're talking about DNS. There's a list of root servers that have the master key to everything. So you just would point to somewhere else, probably.
Yeah.
That's
So if I were to
what
go
would
in,
happen.
if they shut it down, then some enterprising person who has made a copy of everything, which in this day and age I think is doable.
It's absolutely doable. That's what Bitcoin is.
With a couple of hard drives, right?
Yeah.
With a terabyte of data, they could probably do it. So that even if they shut off DNS, somebody else could
Could
put the word out,
switch over.
tweet, Facebook, all the rest of that, which unfortunately goes through the DNS servers too. But then that would appear, and if it resides in Singapore or something, then Obama couldn't do anything about it.
Well, the interesting thing is there's a thing called Tor. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tor.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yes, Tor is the Onion network. Facebook actually has an Onion URL. It's a little bit complicated. It's like Facebook with some other weird names in it. They figure it out, but you can actually go to Facebook on the Onion routing on Tor. So I recommend that you download Tor. You can get it as a Tor browser. Just get it, have it on your system. If they ever did, and then make sure you have to build up a list of maybe some servers like Facebook. If Facebook has a .onion URL, which is surprising. Facebook, everyone always thinks they're so anti-security, but they're actually pioneering this, which I think is very interesting. You can also protect your emails with a GPG key, which I think is like, wow, really? You can encrypt your emails, So that I thought was
Tor.
pretty. Well, the GPG is something you set up separately, but
Okay.
all your emails will be encrypted with them. Every time they send you something, you type in a password.
I'm
and you can
nodding
see
as
it.
if I understand you right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you do. But the point is, they're actually taking security seriously, which I think is really interesting. So anyway, I recommend getting Tor just in case.
Okay. Well, okay, speaking of security, Director of the FBI, James Comey, was quoted saying that he puts tape over his laptop's webcam. Is that silly? And that's the first question. The second question, is it effective? And is there a good reason to do that?
Well, it won't mute your mic.
No.
But I have, well, for laptops, yes and no, it depends on the operating system you're running. But I have heard that cell phones, it can actually be an issue where malicious software, if you accidentally download it, it could turn on your camera on you and be recording everything you do. In fact, that's one of the concerns with cell phones in general, is that apparently, I don't know if this is a conspiracy or not, but the NSA has a way of turning on cell phones so they can listen to bad guys. So, I mean, you're taking a risk when you have something like that around, you know.
Okay.
I kind of, I feel like I'm okay because I'm so boring, but you know, maybe not.
It depends
Maybe
on what
not.
you're doing.
I am libertarian, so I might be on the watch list.
Probably.
But so what we do know is if you put tape over the camera, then no matter if anybody's taking it over or not, they at least can't see you.
That's why I don't think it's that silly.
Yeah. And then because there have been instances that I've read about computers where people have downloaded it and they notice somehow, they see from looking at something on their computer that their camera is on. And I know it has also happened. I've read news stories about. So, you know, maybe if you're doing something really stupid or you like privacy, put something over the camera. And then, you know, what are you going to do? Sign to the person next to you so they can't. See, that's why whenever people talk about technology and spies being caught by, there's something called tradecraft, old school tradecraft, which is, you know, like writing a handwritten note to someone and then they memorize it and it's in code so they don't know what it is and they go somewhere else and tell it to someone who's part of another cell. So kind of like that blockchain thing, probably, only in real life. So there are ways to defeat all this technology through lack of technology, through old school stuff. And putting something over a camera is a simple solution. You know, and I would think that there's a whole lot of people that want to watch James Comey through a camera to figure out where he put his brain and his morals.
Or his ethics.
Yeah.
You probably don't get to be the head of the
Didn't
FBI
he work
with morals
for-
and ethics.
Who did he work for before he got to be director?
I think he was appointed by a Republican, wasn't he? I can't remember.
No, but didn't he work in either the Clinton? Anyway, there's some
Name's familiar.
Yeah.
incestuous stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Well, speaking of email hacks, Colin Powell's email was hacked by Guccifer or somebody. I'm not sure who hacked it.
Bless them.
Yeah, anyway. And one of the things that he emailed was, he's a member of Bohemian Grove, the conclave of the elite in the Bay Area that meets every week for every year for a week or two and has fun. And he said, talking to the fellow billionaires or millionaires or elite, members of the elite at Bohemian Grove, most of whom you would think would be Republican because they're old and white and rich. He said that most of them said they're either going to vote third party or for Hillary. And I'm guessing they're not going to be voting for Jill Stein. So it would appear that there's a number of libertarian votes coming out of Bohemian Grove. He also referred to Bill Clinton as still doing bimbos at home while Hillary is away. In fact,
What a shock.
in fact, one of the bimbos has a code name from the Secret Service of Energizer.
The Energizer Bunny.
Energizer, yes.
Well, and she lives not that far from the compound, and whenever Hillary's away, she visits him if he's not busy doing a couple other bimbos, or from what I understand. And this is all, I'm just saying what I've heard. I'm not casting any aspersions on Bill Clinton or any of the bimbos. I'm just saying this is what I've heard from people. So, I think it's great that these people's emails are getting hacked.
Well,
I'm wondering this, in this day and age, does that say that these people are stupid, or does it say that they want to be found out, that they don't want to post this stuff, but they know somebody's going to hack their emails, so they put stuff in that points a finger at the bad guys, so that when it's hacked, they can say, "Oh no, my email was hacked. It's terrible," right? Because
Well, who knows? I mean, here's the interesting thing is the guy in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. What's his name?
Snowden.
Not Snowden. No, the other guy.
Assange?
Assange. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
Julian
Assange. You're right.
He has been promising for the last couple of months that he has leaked emails that, when fully divulged, will sink the Hillary Clinton campaign.
That's what he
so
keeps
far,
saying.
we haven't really seen anything
hasn't done it
that
Well, he's worried about the drone strike.
could be, but we haven't seen anything yet that would fit into that description. Do you guys think it's coming?
I certainly hope so.
Is it even necessary at this point?
Well, I mean, what's just cracks me up, and we're going to talk politics, is that Richard and I have discussion all the time about whether or not Trump, who's a buddy of the Clintons and hung out with them and gave money to the foundation and all the rest of that, is actually running a campaign and being as stupid as he can possibly be to throw the election to Clinton.
Well,
but Clinton is
quote, right?
so bad, so corrupt, so terrible, and so hated that despite his best efforts, he's kicking her ass. Right now, he's actually ahead in a lot of the polls.
Well, didn't he
and
say...
he's not spending any money.
Yeah.
Any of his own money.
Wow.
He's getting all this free publicity. And I think he said something stupid like every other day.
Well, then that's a quote. It's attributed to him. There's controversy whether it's real or not, but he said, the quote is, if I was going to run for office, I would run on the Republican ticket because these people are so dumb, they'll believe anything. And so I can say anything I want. I think he said something like that. So who knows? Maybe it's true. Maybe that's what he's
we keep wondering whether we the movie The Producers or Wag the Dog.
Yeah.
Wag the Dog?
Yeah.
I think. I mean, so...
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling that it's going to be Hillary because she went to Bilderberg, right? And as far as I know, Trump didn't, and definitely Bernie Sanders didn't. So the Bilderberg and that whole, they're all that members only club.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible that
she is the candidate for the war machine. She is the candidate for Goldman Sachs, Wall Street.
Yeah.
She is the candidate for the political elite, the establishment, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
She is who the people who have held power for decades want to see elected in this two or three way.
Yes.
Decades. Yes. In this two or three way.
Yes.
Yeah. She is the anointed one.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not they'll be able to persuade the hoi polloi voters of that is another question. And being able to persuade the voters, whether they'll be able to hack the vote is a third question. And I think they're open questions.
And
if they do hack the vote, after they hack the vote, will they be able to avoid leaving a trail? And I don't think they can.
Well, I mean, they don't. All they need to do really is just get the delegates, to vote. And
You mean the electors?
The electors, right?
That's the electoral college.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what I mean.
That only takes 270 horses' heads.
Well, right, but you still, in order for, unless you have renegade electors, you have to have. I mean, the way it works is you have to win at the state level.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
You have to win at the state level in order to get electors from California. You have to win the popular vote in California.
Maybe if they're desperate enough, they won't care. Just do it. Who knows?
Well, I mean, there's no reason why electors can't go renegade.
Yeah.
In fact, the first renegade elector was Roger McBride back in the 1968 election, I believe it was. And Roger McBride was a Republican elector who could not stand the thought of voting for Richard Nixon, understandably, and so he voted for the first Libertarian Party presidential candidate, John Hospers,
No kidding.
who was an openly gay guy running with the first female person to run as a VP candidate. The first Libertarian ticket. This was back in 1972. He voted for Hospers and Tony Nathan, and so they got one electoral vote because he said, "To hell with the Republicans! I'm going to vote the way I feel like it." So, I mean, there's no law that says the electors can't go renegade, and
No,
he
there
did.
is. There's a few states that have what are they called faithless delegate laws.
Right, but I think I think
But it's
that-
like you get fined. It's not like
Yeah,
you get
it's not a
jail
big
time or
deal.
something like that. Yeah.
So did this guy live after that? Did he survive?
Oh, yeah, many years.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, he ran for president as a Libertarian candidate in the 1976
Good
election.
man, I don't know the history of the Libertarian Party nearly as well as
All I
I
know is Ron Paul ran. That's all I know.
I was there.
Yeah?
Yeah. Went to the convention that nominated Roger McBride. Anyway, Uber is debuting self-driving cars in Pittsburgh. Would you take a ride in an Uber?
Sure. I definitely would, and I'm in fact I'm real excited.
Even if there's nobody in the front seat, driver's
Well,
seat?
I think they have to actually have someone in the front seat just in case something goes wrong.
Well, in the test, certainly
yes,
they're having
yeah,
somebody in the
yeah.
front seat.
As long as I mean, gosh darn, if it's a question of a self-driving car, then there's you could probably get your own self-driving car and cut the Uber thing out, right?
Well, then you
And
have to
Well,
pay
you can
for
take
it.
over
buy
if
a
you
car.
need to.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
Yeah.
the reason I like all this stuff is that when you look at what is a zip car, the concept of zip car, you use the car that you own unless you are an outside salesperson or a delivery route person, or you have like 17 kids. You use a car, like 5% of the time, and you have this huge investment. You're insuring it. You're storing it. You're spending 30 years ago you could buy a nice house for what people spend on the average car now, maybe in 25. So the idea and there are many people in urban areas now that do not own cars. They zip car, they Uber.
Yeah.
So, and I ask myself this question constantly about the whole self-driving car thing. Occasionally I commute from past Watt Avenue in Sacramento, yes it is in California, into downtown. And I ask myself this question about self-driving cars. Can they be any worse or any less safe than the people driving next to me on a daily basis? And my answer is no. Because I think sometimes those people are actively out to kill me. Whereas I think Uber has some self-interest called lawsuits to keep itself in check. So I would do it. I would do it.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, I know from the Google car tests that they've been doing, the self-driving cars, that the record is practically stellar. The only accidents they've ever gotten into with those cars has been the other person that wasn't paying attention, rear-ended them or whatever.
There was one Tesla that got into a fatal
That's
crash.
Tesla was one. Now I've heard that
But then
that's
there's
not
also
truly a
I
self-drive.
figure they're
Yeah.
50-50 because another Tesla saved a guy's life by driving him to the emergency room. So far they're dead.
Yeah,
even.
the way I look
They're not
at
upside
it,
down.
the way I look at it is it's a numbers game. You're not going to have any technical system that's going to be foolproof. I grew up in Minnesota. I'm guessing that a self-driving car would not do so very well on a road in a blizzard with ice and snow, and where you had to drive in the left lane or the opposing lane in order to get around the snowdrift. I don't think that would work very well. So I'm guessing that there are applications where self-driving doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Might drive better.
Maybe.
it's where
How do you engineer for that?
Well,
though?
you're a computer guy, and it's all about algorithms.
Yeah,
And
how do you
so
do an algorithm for a moving snowdrift? I don't know how you do that.
Well, did you ever see
the
those
same
tests
as
from
the
Boston
algorithm?
Dynamics?
Same as an algorithm for a moving car. It's actually simpler than an algorithm for a moving car.
It's a question of being able to
Identify
detect objects.
Being
and
able to identify what's going on.
Have you seen the stuff that
How do you identify an icy patch?
Well, I think that might actually be because black ice now kills people, and I think technology will identify black
maybe like
ice
through some kind
way
of radar
better.
system or something like that. You might actually be able to say, "I know what that is," where a human eye
infrared,
wouldn't. Yeah, exactly.
sonar. I mean,
Exactly.
there's something there. Whereas you rely on the senses. Black ice is invisible. You hit black ice, it's basically like trying to drive on glass with Teflon tires.
Right.
And it kills people.
But
Well,
you're
Well,
right.
the way I look at it
Auto
is,
sensors.
it's a numbers game, and
Yeah.
the numbers are that a computer is going to be an awful lot more reliable than the computer in my brain, which
It
doesn't
won't-
get
At least the
fall
computer
asleep,
won't
it
be
won't-
putting on
yeah.
makeup and texting at the same time.
Exactly. It won't be
while
falling
driving.
asleep. It won't be thinking about sex. It'll
And the
just be-
guys that do
yeah.
that really upset me, by the way.
All right.
Okay, Kim Jung-un would not let you say that because he has outlawed sarcasm in the Republic of North Korea.
And he is actually behind the times with microaggression on U.S. campuses. So he is simply following Kim Jung-un. Maybe he'll grow up to be Kim Jong-dos at one time.
Yeah.
So he's really just taken his lesson from U.S. universities.
Well, I mean, it's like when you're king, you can make any arbitrary decree that you want. Like his father would just shut down the market.
Because he's carrying a little bit more weight. I wonder if he's actually eating other North Koreans, if he's cooking them and eating them, because he looks well fed.
Well, that's probably what they're doing, because they don't have anything else to eat.
Yeah.
No more sarcastic jokes? Okay, we'll move on to the next
It's a
topic.
good thing that he's not our king.
Collapse.
Because our king's making everything illegal.
King Obama.
King Hussein.
King Hussein.
The collapse of Venezuela. Bernie Sanders was praising Venezuela as a up-and-coming democratic socialist miracle as little as 3 years ago. Now the store shelves are empty. What happened?
Well, I mean, socialism happened, and and it's also central banking. I mean, all the things that Karl Marx put in his playbook for communism. That's why we have central banks. We have all the things that he wanted. Public school, the whole thing. And this is the way to kill capitalism: progressive income tax. And we see it happening in Venezuela. I mean, they nationalize the oil industry, and then of course. The natural thing that's going to happen is this is great while oil prices are low, right? Oil
high.
Prices go, or high rather, and oil prices go low, and then guess what? Because they don't have a free market like we do in the United States and in other places, they can't handle this.
They could have.
Yeah, well, they have a black market.
And after they
like,
socialized, they quit exploring. They just pumped the existing drilled wells and quit exploring.
Of course, they used up the entire supply, and then they wonder why they ran dry. I mean, because they don't, they think that that's the answer, destroying the market, and the market is the thing that gives you all the stuff that that we take for granted.
Market decides very well. So this goes back to Richard and I had this conversation about sovereignty and immunity. And the problem with having governments in charge of things is nobody in the government is held accountable, or at least in the U.S. I imagine some people might get shot in Venezuela, but market economy works because you're instantly accountable. If you give somebody a cheeseburger and it's rare, and you want it medium well, then they're not going to stop at your store anymore. But if
instant feedback, you get instant monetary feedback. You vote with your dollars.
But it takes generations for governments to respond, and the only way they do that is by being elected out, which.
Or in most cases, by either they'll say, okay, you don't like this, well, then we're going to force you to buy it. Or
you're going to learn how to eat raw cheeseburgers.
Study Ludwig von Mises.
And on that appetizing note,
Human
we'll
action.
wrap up
Human
the show.
action.
Thank you very much for being part of the Libertarian Counterpoint. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Channel 17 Sacramento, WWW Access Sacramento on the web at 8 p.m. Thursday, noon Friday, and 4 a.m. on Saturday. Thank you.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.